Hi guys, welcome back to Battle with Ola. This is Mujola Olu and thank you for tuning in once again. Today we want to talk about inchoate offenses. Inchoate offenses are offenses that are committed halfway. That is offenses that are not completed. That is the defendant in this case starts to commit the offense, but they did not get the chance or the opportunity to finish committing the offense before they were apprehended. For instance, someone tries to rob someone at gunpoint. Now he has pointed a gun at that person and is already demanding for what he or she wants to rob the person of. But then the police come in, or maybe yes, the police siren, which shows the presence, a nearby presence of policemen. So he takes to his heels or he runs off and then is chased down by the police. Probably evidence is gotten from testimony or statement is gotten from the victim, and then he is apprehended and taken to the police station. He or she, after the conclusion of the, he or she can be charged after the conclusion of the investigation, with attempted armed robbery. That is, you were already in the process. You have set in motion a string of actions that would have led to complete armed robbery, but there was an intervening factor. So the intervening factor is the key ingredient or the key thing to look out for to determine if an offense has been committed or if it's just a mere attempt. So inchoate offenses, the most common example is an attempt. So you would see, if you look at criminal charges generally, especially in Nigeria, you'd see that most of them contain attempts. Attempt to do this, attempt to do that. So attempt is not mere preparation, no. If someone is preparing to murder someone, for instance, the preparation they have put in place might not count as an attempt if there's no overt action from them, showing that they have actually started to carry out the murder, but there was an interruption or an intervention, or something that put a stop to their acts. So that's how to explain or understand inchoate offenses. Usually, for a crime, we look out for mens rea, that's the guilty mind, and actus reus, that is the overt action. So mens rea is an intention. So you must demonstrate an intention and then an overt act. Carrying out that intention before we can say that you've committed a crime. Generally. But for inchoate offenses, mens rea will suffice. That is, there's an intention. And actus reus can also come into play, but not all the time. So even if there's an absence of actus reus, that is, the act of committing that offense was not fully carried out or was not carried out, but there's an intention that has been demonstrated already, we can say that it's an inchoate offense. I'll give the example of rape, for instance. Rape is a coitus without consent. Let's take it that basic. So how can we say there's been an attempted rape that is not rape in itself? This person has demonstrated an intention to have or carry out coitus with the other person, but the other person has resisted, has said no, but this person has continued to try to complete or carry out the coitus despite the demonstrated resistance or disagreement from the other party. That is, there's a clear overt no from this party, but despite that, you are continuing, and maybe there was now an intervening factor. Maybe the person was able to overpower you or run away or some other supervening factor, and then the rape was not carried out. The person can still be charged. The assailant now can still be charged with attempted rape because he or she tried to actually carry out the rape. There was a supervening factor. And this would not be the same thing as when someone says no and that other party stops. If you have stopped at no, that is not attempted rape. But if you have continued to try to actually have coitus despite a no, then we can say that there's attempted rape if you were not able to carry out the full coitus or penetration. If you look at section 4 of the criminal code, it talks about mens rea, and it talks about how you can determine mens rea in a case of attempt. Namely, what you look out for is that, one, the person has already started or set out or begun a string of actions that demonstrates an intention to carry out the offense. That's one. Two is that there's an overt act. an overt act that might lead to the carrying out of the actual offense, even though that act will not count for the offense itself. So in the case of rape, the offense, the act should be penetration. But now there's no penetration, but there's an act of trying to achieve penetration. So that's an overt act. And the third thing is an intention. So the prosecution or the police in their investigation must be able to ascertain that this person actually has an intention to carry out the act. You know that in an earlier video I talked about manslaughter and murder and the difference. So for manslaughter now, there's no intention, no mens rea. That's why someone has killed someone maybe by accident or thoughtlessly. There's no intention, so we can say that there's no mens rea. But in the case of attempted murder now, which might have led to murder, there's a clear intention that this person wanted to kill the other person. Now they started doing some things, making preparations, not just preparations now, but setting a string of actions in motion that would have led to the murder, the successful murder, and then they actually began to carry out the murder. Yes, so that is attempted murder. So for instance, someone tries to murder someone by poison. The measure would be that this person probably went to the market, bought the poison, maybe prepared the food, or created an avenue for this person to take something edible from them. If it's an edible poison, maybe they offered the person a drink and they had put the poison in the drink. Now this person does not drink it or drinks it but does not die, thankfully. We can say that that's an attempted murder because there's intention, there's action, and there's a beginning to carry out the murder itself. So there's an action of attempt, and then there's an action, that is prematurely aborted of trying to actually commit murder. So in some instances, attempt is punished as the principal offense. That is, in some instances, if murder carries life imprisonment, attempt also carries life imprisonment, because the law looks at it that if you had the opportunity, if there were no supervening factors, you might have actually succeeded in carrying out this crime. So we might as well punish you for that crime itself. So in some instances, not in all cases now, but in some instances, attempts are punished, as the principal crimes. In other instances, the person might be punished with maybe half of the punishment for the main crime, or maybe 1/4, as the law may prescribe. Lastly, I would like to say that when a person attempts to commit a crime and they do not succeed, it doesn't mean that they will get away with it. Usually, the state or the prosecution charges them for attempt and then for the crime. In fact, there are some prosecutors that would almost always put attempted this or that in their charges, so that if at the end of the day they are unable to prove, the substantive offense, they might be able to sustain the attempt and the person can be punished anyways. So that's all about attempts, inchoate offenses, mens rea, actus reus. I hope you understand. You can leave comments in the comment section to continue the conversation. And don't forget, you can subscribe to Batok with Ola. You can share it. You can like it. Let's play a liking game these days. Please give this video a thumbs up if you love what you have seen. And don't forget that you can also join the channel for a token. I will always see you in my very next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Toodles.